Hey guys, so hopefully my last video on equivalent fractions gave you a bit of intuition into sort of identifying equivalent fractions and the idea of expressing, well, not expressing, as representing the same thing, the same fraction in a variety of different ways. If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave it as a card on the screen now. But moving on, one of the applications to equivalent fractions we briefly touched on in that video was the idea of simplifying fractions. So when we had a fraction that had some bigger numbers, so like in the examples you see here, getting those to a far more kind of nice and clean, you know, clean, simple fraction, which is an equivalent fraction to the original ones. It says the exact same thing. Now, we're going to look at these two particular examples here, and we're going to apply some of the things we talked about. So, the main thing we want to identify when we tackle these types of questions is the highest common factor of both our numerator, our number on the top of our fraction, and our denominator on the bottom of our fraction. So, in our first example here, we have the fraction 10 over 40. Now, this could have been the fraction of students that made the school team. So, for example, 40 students tried out for the team and only 10 were selected. We want to find what the fraction is of the students that were selected. So, if you feel like it, pause the video and have a go at these. But we can see that in our first fraction, the highest common factor, well, both of these numbers are a factor of 10. So they have a zero at the end here. And we can say that, okay, 10 goes into both our numerator and our denominator. So when we divide our top and bottom by 10, we get, well, 10 goes into 10 one time, and 10 goes into 40 four times. Now, this quarter is an equivalent fraction to 10 over 40. It's just a way simpler way of writing it. This is where it becomes useful to simplify fractions when we're sort of, especially when we deal with these big numbers, just sort of helping us to get a grasp of exactly what portions we're sort of looking at, what fraction, what simplified fraction this is, which it's easier for our brains to just comprehend smaller numbers. Now, our next example is a bit trickier. We have 16 over 36. This is our fraction. Now, this is a bit trickier because there are some numbers that, well, some these two numbers have multiple factors. So if we take our 16, for example, I'm just going to draw this little box on the side here. And we're going to look at the factors of 16 and 36. So let's look at what numbers go into 16. So the most obvious ones are 16 and 1. We'll have that for all numbers. And we also have 4 and 4, because 4 times 4 gives us 16. Now, in 36, what are its factors? So we have, first of all, 36 and 1. We have 12 and 3. We have 4 and 9. And we have 6 and 6. So, obviously 36 has a lot. Oh, missed one. We also have 18 and 2. I hope that's all of them. Please feel free to correct me if there's not. Just right off the on the fly, this is what I've come up with. So we've got a lot of factors of 36 and a few less in 16. So we want the highest one that goes into both. And looking here, we see, well, okay, 16 is a big one here, but that we in our first one, but there's no 16 anywhere else in our 36 factors. So what is our next biggest one? Well, we don't have many here in our top sort of row, but we can see 4 goes into both 16 and 36. So let's try it. Let's divide the top and bottom by 4. That gives us on the top, 4 goes into 16 4 times, and 4 goes into 36 9 times. Now, these fractions here, well, sorry, not these fractions, these numbers that make up our fraction here, 4 and 9, there are no more common factors between 4 and 9. And you can test this out. You can make another little table like I did here and give it a go. But you'll see that there are none that go into 4 and 9. So this, as a result, is our most simplified version of our fraction. It is an equivalent fraction, once again, to 16 over 36, but it is this fraction in the most simple form. Now, there are a couple of ways you can, when you're working through these types of questions in your workbooks or in class, there's a couple of different ways to tackle these. Now, sometimes if they're simpler ones, you can just, off the top of your head, you can just find the highest common factor. So with our fraction in example 1, it wasn't too hard to see. Now, when we get trickier ones, we can draw these little tables of factors that I have here. But the third strategy, which I wouldn't always recommend, but sometimes it's just the way to go when you're not really bothered. Literally just pick the lowest number that you know goes into top and bottom and just keep simplifying by as low of a number as you can. So for our second example here, I'm just going to do a little extra bit down here. So we could have said, okay, well, I don't know that it's 4 off the bat. So I'm just going to say, okay, well, 16 and 36 are even. So 2 goes into both of these. So dividing top and bottom by 2, I'd get 8 over 18. And I look at this again and go, all right, cool. I still have 2 even numbers. Let's try dividing by 2 one more time. And I'm going to get 4 over 9. Once again, I've reached the exact same equivalent fraction. You could have even done example 1 just going in 2s. And you would have gotten eventually to the same thing. So that was a little trick I did when I was in school. If I just couldn't think of something, I wasn't bothered doing the whole table and going through all of it, I would just, if they were not odd numbers, if they were even numbers, I just keep dividing by 2 and see where that would take me. So if you're in an exam or you kind of just, your brain's a bit fried, you can't really think off the top of your head, or you're not bothered to do this table, you can always just find a small factor. 2's a very good one usually, and just simplify from there. So I hope these tips helped. Feel free to suggest some more examples and give me any feedback. And yeah, good luck with simplifying your fractions. Have a good one, guys.